Hey guys, this is Emerald Fire. We're starting today's video in GitHub so I can show off a new data pack. This is a Minecraft version detector. It detects the Minecraft version of the world that's currently running. For example, if you launch Minecraft 1.16.4, it will set scoreboard values in the objective mcversion to 1 for the major version, 16 for the minor version, and 4 for the patch version. This supports most versions since 1.13, which was the first version that Datapacks were introduced in. It supports all major versions, so 1.13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and most patch versions, which are the smaller numbers. The only versions it is not able to detect are 1.13.2, 1.15.1, and 1.16.1, and those are detected as the next lowest version. But I'll get more back to that later. This check runs automatically on world load and every time you do reload. You can also run the checks yourself by calling mcversion check, but of course you never need to do this because the world you're loaded in won't ever change Minecraft version. And finally, you can also run a function to tell that will just print out the current Minecraft version, so it will just tell the player that you're running Minecraft 1.16.4. Some of these checks have extra requirements. Most of them don't require any interaction with the world at all, so they just run automatically. But some need to look at entities to determine what the current version is, and some can't execute immediately. They need to have a little delay. And one of them even requires a player to be present in the world. So these ones are marked with their special requirements here. And if these requirements aren't met, then the check will just not run. And if you want to disable these requirements, for example, you just don't even want to try running any checks that require a player in the world, you can set scoreboard values to disable them. For example, disable player, you'll just set mcversion to 1. Here we are in Minecraft 1.13, the first detectable version by this data pack. If I load up this world for version detector, this is a world I have installed with the data pack. It will show the scoreboard values as you see on the side. It is major is 1, minor is 13, and patch is 0. So we are mcversion tell. It will tell us we're running Minecraft 1.13. The way this detects different versions is based on different changes that have been made in each update. Most of the versions, the easiest way to detect is if a command was added or a command format was changed or a game rule was added, because if the function fails to compile, it won't run, and we can tell whether or not the function ran by setting different scoreboard values. If the detector can run at all, it must be at least 1.13, so that's what we start with. Next, I'll move over to 1.13.1. We're now running 1.13.1, so if I go into the same world again, we can see that the scoreboard now reflects the fact that we're in 1.13.1. If I do scoreboard players reset patch, and get rid of that, and let's do minor and major, then I can run it again with function mcversion check. And there you have it. We're back in 1.13.1, and this will also automatically run on world reload. So if I do this, there we go, back in 1.13.1. The difference between 1.13 and 1.13.1 that we're checking for is that the behavior of modulus division in scoreboard changes. In 1.13, you would have, if you set this to a negative number and set this to something like 7, then if you did modulus division in 1.13, the result would be negative, but in 1.13.1, the result is positive. So we can run this, and we see that it is 6 instead of -1. So we know we must be in 1.13.1. Just for comparison, back in 1.13.0, I'll run those same commands, set it to a -1, set it to a +7, and then do modulus division, and you see we get -1 in the scoreboard. Now for 1.13.2, there actually were changes over 1.13.1, but I couldn't get a way to reliably detect them. I may make a separate video about that because it's the only one version that this data pack I feel like should be able to detect, but I just wasn't able to get it working. We are now in 1.14, and let's load up our 1.14 world. This is using the same exact data pack, it's just a different version of Minecraft. And as you can see in the scoreboard, it now says we're in 1.14.0. If we run function mcversion till now tells us we're in 1.14.4. The difference between 1.13.2 and 1.14 added the schedule command. So if you use any functions with the schedule command, those will not run in any versions below 1.14, so we can tell whether we're in 1.14 or not. For 1.14 to 1.14.1, they fixed a bug reversing sort distance for calling a function within a function. So this command block will run a function that says at s for these animals closest to the pig. So we'll just run this, and you see it says pig sheep because it's running the function positioned at this pig, and then it's doing sort equals nearest, say at s. So the pig is first because it's closest to itself, and then goes the sheep. That is what's inside. Yeah, this function here, test function here, is just say at s, and then here we're just executing it at the pig, sort equals nearest. Now here is that exact same command, but inside its own function. If we run this, you can see it's reversed order. The sheep is executed first. Now we're in 1.14.1, and as you can see, it executes it in the correct order, same as this one. For 1.14.1 to 1.14.2, they fixed a bug where a trader llama would despawn instantly when summoned because it didn't have the entity tag despawn delay set to something other than 0. So if I try to summon a llama in 1.14.1, it just instantly despawns. Here in 1.14.2, if we try to summon a llama, it doesn't despawn immediately, and we can check that by looking at the despawn delay tag. 1.14.3 is a fun one because they accidentally allowed any command to run in functions, including server commands like kick that are usually reserved for admins. So if we run this function that will kick at A in 1.14.3, we get kicked. If we try the same thing in 1.14.4, it does nothing because the function just doesn't run. And don't worry, this test function won't actually kick anybody. It makes sure that it doesn't actually do the kick, but even having kick in the function allows it to run, and so we set the score. Here we are in 1.15, and of course the biggest change, NBT text components can now be used for NBT storage. That just means that the tellraw command can now say things that are in storage. So if I put this into NBT storage to say spoon, then I can now tellraw it. Obviously, I could have just checked for the existence of bees, but I wanted to try something different. For 1.15 to 1.15.1, I couldn't find anything that we could detect the change for. There were only some chunk rendering optimizations and a crash fix for using anvils. There are a bunch of fixes that are listed, but as far as I can tell, all of those were actually fixed in 1.15. They just hadn't marked the bugs fixed yet. For 1.15.1 to 1.15.2, it just adds a game rule, so we just put that in a function, and if it runs, then we're in 1.15.2. Nothing to show here. Next, we have 1.16. They added the attribute command, so we can just test for that. In 1.16 to 1.16.1, this is just another one that we can't detect because it's too small. They only fixed a crash fix with realms, so I don't think there's anything we could detect in this one. Now for 1.16.1 to 1.16.2, they added the piglin brute. So all we have to do is reference this mob in a function, and it will only run in 1.16.2 plus. In 1.16.2, there's a duplication glitch with baby piglins that they fixed in 1.16.3. So if you summon a piglin and give it something to hold, then you toss it a gold ingot, and then you kill the baby piglin, and it has to be killed by another entity. It can't be just killed by environmental damage. Then it will duplicate the diamond that you gave it to hold. So you demonstrate piglin, give it a diamond, give it some gold, shoot an arrow. Now we get 2 diamonds. Here we are in 1.16.3, and if we do the same stuff, you see it only drops 1 diamond. And conveniently, you don't need a player to kill the piglin for this. So in this command, I'm getting the player's UUID and attaching it to the arrow, but it can be any entity, not just the player. So in the data pack, I'm just summoning an armor stand and setting the arrow to be shot by the armor stand, and that still works for the duplication glitch. For 1.16.3 to 1.16.4, there wasn't that much fixed. But they did fix an infinite speed glitch when pushed by the exact center of an Ender Dragon. So if you summon an Ender Dragon and then you summon an entity exactly at the center of the wings, it gets a divide by zero error when it tries to launch out the entity from the Ender Dragon because the speed is based on the distance from the center. If you do it slightly off center from the center of the wings, it won't actually crash, unlike if you do the exact center, but it will still get very high speed. So I have a setup here. We're going to summon an Ender Dragon. It's going to stay right there. Oh, that is loud. Let's see, music and sound. Let's turn this off. Then if we summon an armor stand, for some reason I couldn't get this to work in a command block, though it does work in the Datapack, and we paste this. You can see that one is frozen there, and my game is currently unresponsive. So if I just say hi, it's not going to do anything. Hello. And then after a minute or two, this would crash. But in my Detector data pack, if you summon it just slightly off center, it gets a much, much higher speed than it does in 1.16.4 when they capped it to prevent this error. So you can still detect it. Now if we try this again in 1.16.4, you'll see that the armor stand shoots out straight up instead of just crashing the game. Finally, in 1.17, the item command was added, so we can just detect for that. Of course, 1.17 isn't out yet, but it's in snapshots, and it's unlikely that the item command will have its name changed. And if it does, I'll just update it to use the correct syntax. So yeah, that's how we can detect all the different versions of Minecraft, except for a select few. That's all for today. I really enjoyed making this data pack because it let me learn a lot about the different changes that have been through Minecraft, and it's fun to sort of try and hack the game to make it experience these bugs in a detectable way that we can throw into Scoreboard. If you want to download this pack, the link's in the description, and you can also view the source code on GitHub. Before I go, I have one more thing to share. YouTube recently started showing ads on channels whose uploaders did not enable them. I've always kept my content ad-free, and I want it to stay that way. However, since we no longer have a choice in the matter, I'm going to share how I block ads on YouTube. You should install these so you can continue to watch my content ad-free. For desktop browsers, I recommend uBlock Origin. It's also a great general web ad blocker. I only have an iOS device and it's jailbroken, so I can only give my recommendations for this. But I use a tweak called Utopia, and this is the version of the YouTube app that it currently works on. And this is the latest version of YouTube as of recording this video. If you need to downgrade your app, you can use App Store++. I also use this for the YouTube Music app. If you block ads on an Android device or anything else not covered here, feel free to leave a suggestion on GitHub and I can update this list. I'll also try to keep it updated as time goes on so that you can hopefully always continue to block ads on my channel. All right, that's all. Thanks for watching and see you next time.